It's all about creation by intent, I know, and I started meditating since 5 years ago, and I get very deep in it. And I'm not the guy for meditation, I thought, but now I am. I can sit for hours there and quiet my mind, and I get in the feeling of the future of myself, and it's amazing, and I get connected. And I just have the questions. Every creation is based on our thoughts and feelings, and our focus on the right mood, and about the beliefs in us, about the programs. And why do we have the program of getting older, of getting ill, and
observation
to die? We are here to die, and I don't know why, because we are an eternal being, and I think
that's
who programmed us to death?
Who programmed you to walk through this door into this room and spend some time with us, and then who's programming you to get up and walk out of this door and go do something else? Death is not different than walking out that door.
Yes, death is just a thought.
It's not just a thought. It is really an experience. It's a really clarifying experience. It really is something that is happening that you will have cognitive awareness of. It's not an illusion. It's not just a game we play with you. You will have a reemergence into non-physical, and you will feel the clarification of who you are, and you will rejoice in everything that you lived that brought that about, and you will favor your new vantage point. We just don't think you should have to croak in order to have that. You can have that even while you are here. But new vantage points are really, really good, because you realize, from non-physical standpoint, you realize that in the physical environment where there is manifestation, which is so delicious and so good, and it's why you come, that once things manifest, then there are things to observe. And that observation causes patterning or trending that then you sort of get stuck in that. And so you want a new perspective. And so that's why you like to have a new vantage point. It's like, we promise you, as delicious as we all are together, and as brilliant as we are, you wouldn't want to be here a whole other day. You think you would, but this is just the right amount of time to stimulate and get new juices flowing. And then you want to walk into a new environment with your new vantage point and see what comes of it. That's what the physical and the non-physical is really about.
Yeah, absolutely. But without this bad belief of, I think, death, there would be no illness. And perhaps we can just overwhelm this bad thought.
Death is not always something that you do by default. The cat that's really ready to make its transition sometimes gets an impulse to run right in front of that car that isn't looking. And humans say, "Oh, what a terrible tragedy." And the cat says, "How clever of me." You get the point?
I get the point, yes.
So why are you hung up on death?
No, I'm not hung up on death, but I'm not afraid of death. Really not.
Then why are we talking about it?
But I think, no, these to get rid of the programs and to not stay in fear or anxiety, I think without the thought of death, it's much easier, because I think then there is no illness.
Without negative emotion, everything is more comfortable. Fear of anything,
Absolutely.
Fear of death, fear of rejection, fear of anything is looking at it from the bottom half of the emotional scale, and it's looking at it apart from your inner being. So it is taking away rather than giving. And so whether the subject is death or anything else, you want to look at it from the upper half of the emotional scale. You just picked the subject of death because it seems to be the thing that most people are worried about. We agree with you completely. Esther says it all the time as she's visiting with her friends, and they say it to her. Isn't it wonderful to know what we know and be in this world at this time? Because while there are a whole lot of people fussing and worrying about everything, we're understanding that all is well no matter how it looks, and there isn't any reason to get hung up on any subject and deprive ourselves of the well-being. There are people on your planet, mostly they would fall into the category of news or media, that scour your earth, even though the percentages of things that are going wrong is minuscule in comparison with the percentages of things that are going right or well. They scour the planet looking for something that will frighten you or that will get your attention, and then they feed it to you into your living room with dramatic music and are successful because they help you to feel the negative emotion of it, which for most humans translates into, well, now they've shown me the problem, so I'll go back to them and maybe they'll show me the solution. But they will never show you the solution because they've hooked you with the problem, and that's what that trending is about. And so the death trending is a big one, and mostly it started with religion that wanted to control your behavior because those who were presenting the rules did not consciously know how to feel good without trying to control circumstances. So it became important to them to control the circumstances, which meant to control you. And most people are more easily controlled by threat of what will go wrong than by promise of the good feeling. In other words, most humans, relative to the emotional scale, take action in response to the lower half of the scale.
Much easier for them to respond to this level, yes.
Because they believe that they have to fix something. That's been the subject or the intention of every word that we have offered here today, is to help you to feel, to remember, to realize, to know that you won't get to where you want to be by pushing against what you don't want. There's no rejection. There's no assertion. There's no getting rid of it. The harder you push on it, a war against this and a war against this and a war against this and a war against this, and all of them getting bigger because attention to it causes an increasing of it. We all understand why it's around, but it has to be all right with you that it is around. Don't rail against people fearing death. Just don't fear death. And don't be angry or upset or disappointed that there are those that fear death. It's like the man that said to us in the very first conference in Dallas, Texas. He said, Abraham, why would I choose to be born gay? And we said, because you had lots of intentions and you knew that standing in that place would cause you to launch some rockets that otherwise you might not launch. And he said, well, I shouldn't have chosen it. I shouldn't have chosen it. And we said, what's the problem? He said, my mother hates me. And we said, how do you feel about her? And he said, I hate her too. We said, you were made for each other. No, we didn't. We said the law of attraction is holding you together in that pattern. But it's such a nice thing to know that you don't have to change circumstances. And so sometimes you're born with such powerful intention that you can't change it. So it's like saying to the world, you're going to have to adapt to me because I'm not moldable. I'm not going to be one of those things that you can control in order for you to feel better. That's not my job. And I'm a teacher and an uplifter. And I want you to know there's a much better way for you. If I jump through hoops and be everything that you need me to be so you can feel good for a minute, you're in a lot of trouble because I'm not going to maintain this for you because it's not my job. And I'm not the only one that you're going to be looking at. And I'm going to teach you a flawed premise. I'm going to make you believe that you can control things that you can't control, so you're never going to find happiness. But if I can stand solid in my difference, and you can love me anyway, now the whole world is yours. Yeah.
But also the words are different. When you get into this, and the sense of words are becoming more and more clear. Universe is you inverse. Or when you're meditating on that, then you've got all these ideas about...
You've got it figured out. And what we want for you is that you stop worrying about those that don't have it figured out.
I'm not worrying about them. But I have 4 children, and our youngest, for a couple of years, he came to Earth. He was 4 years old, and our dog died. And I come home, and he said, "Where's my dog?" And I said, "He's dead." And he said, "What's that?" And I explained it, and that's the question. And in that second, I explained it.
What is your question?
No, we have to talk about it, but I think it's better not to talk about it.
We love talking about it. We love saying to you, you're here in this body, and we are so glad that you're here in this body. And we love that you are an extension of that source energy. And it is so magnificent that you're banging around and launching rockets of desire and causing the universe to expand and giving yourself and others an opportunity to feel more and more satisfaction. And you will reach a place in your life experience where the contrast will not be promoting new rockets of desire. So your summoning power to this physical apparatus may not be quite the same. And you may reach this place where you feel like you can have more fun for a moment and more meaning and more value. That's what the experience with Jerry was. He was romping around with Esther and playing with all of you and having the time of his life and loving every minute of it. And it came to the realization of his inner being and to himself and to all of us that they had reached this place of understanding where the next big thing that would be of value to have a conversation of would be the death experience in a way that is real. So Jerry joyously found a quick way out, a very quick and not uncomfortable way into non-physical, and the experience, the relationship between Jerry and Esther is different, but it is equally, if not more, delicious. And Esther's ability to talk with everyone about the death experience was transformed also. The death experience is a delicious thing. Let's say it better. Here's our best way of describing this to you. You may have heard this story if you've been hanging around us for a while, but it's the very best conversation to have about all of this. So Jerry is in the back of a pickup truck with 2 children, and their father is driving the truck, and they're going to drive up a canyon to the cabin where they live. And it's nighttime, and he's in the back of the pickup truck with a canvas tarp over it with a flashlight, and he's tutoring these children in Spanish. And as they are all piling in, the driver says, well, the brakes have gone out on this truck, but it's not a problem because it's a manual transmission and I can control it with the gears. I can just gear down or gear up, and so don't worry about it. And Jerry thought, well, you're putting your kids in this truck, so I guess you're not worried about it, so no need for me to worry about it. And so they all piled in and off they went. And as they're going up the mountain, up and down and around and going up a little and going down a little, Jerry is listening, and he can hear that this driver is having a hard time getting it into the lower gear. The truck is going too fast. They're going downhill, and the momentum's too fast. It's grinding the gear. He cannot get into the lower gear. And Jerry knows what that means. That means the truck is going to be, or may already be, out of control. And so this father driving the truck was wise enough to not go off the cliff. Instead, he turned the truck into the side of the mountain, which caused the truck to go up and turn upside down and come down on its top. And Jerry said that first thing that happened was his knees hit the pavement. He could feel the pavement under the canvas. And he thought, oh, that's not so bad. And then the truck landed on all of them, and Jerry lost consciousness. Not for long. And when Jerry came back into consciousness, he felt exhilarated and renewed. And he told everybody for years before he met us, I'm now no longer fear death because I now know what death is, he said. 1 minute, you're tutoring kids in the back of the truck, and the next minute, lights out. I no longer fear death. Unconsciousness is like death. And when he told us the story, we said, no, it isn't. Death is superconsciousness, not unconsciousness. When you reemerge into non-physical, it's not lights out. It's lights on. It's like all the lights on. Awareness of everything that you lived, reveling in it, basking in it, happy for every experience, you see. Superconsciousness. That's what death is. We just don't think you have to have death to have superconsciousness, and that's what the leading edge is.
Yeah, you can, in meditating, you can contact it. That's really good. Yeah.